job site is never quiet. This has got to be the worst place to try and make a video.
Oh, do you do construction? Can I ask you about this? Can you come fix my gutters? The answer is no. I'm sorry. I'm busy.
On today's episode, I'm going to be sharing some of the tips and tricks to make building easier and more pleasant. So I've been building houses for over 20 years, and in those 20 years, I've learned a few things I'd like to think. So get out your pad and paper. You're going to want to take notes on this one, guys. Here we go. Tip number 1. First tip involves using a string line. Now, a string line is a great tool on a job to get houses straight, square, plumb, whatever you want to do with them. But they're not very good if they're loose, if they're sagging. So this tip is how to get a string line super tight. Now I'm going to take this string line, I'm going to get an approximate length like this, and I'm going to loop it almost like you're tying a fishing hook on, about 5 times, and we're going to loop it around. Next we're going to pull this way with this hand, and I'm also going to pull this way with this hand, and this is going to give you 2 ways to pull on the same string line at once. And you see I can pull this so tight it's like a banjo string. And next, the real trick about this is that you just pull this loose end back and you can actually just let go of it. It's like magic, isn't it? It has so much friction on itself right here at this wraparound point that it stays put until you're done with it. When you're ready to release the string, all you have to do is pull this loose end back and your string line will slide off without a knot in it at all.
You can see from the video he has a screw attached to the windowsill. I mean, why would you ever need the screw attached to the windowsill for a string line? Okay, guys, let's check all these windowsills and make sure they're level. Everybody put a screw in the windowsill. Good job, Perkins.
Tip number 2. Buy suspenders for your tool belt. You will thank yourself over and over again where your tool belt doesn't pull your pants off every time you turn around.
I'm a no suspender type of guy. It messes up with your tan.
Tip number 3. I imagine a lot of good builders know this one, and it's how to flush boards with one another. Now, when you're building a wall, say if 2 framing members are right next to each other like they are right here. Let's come in close and have a look at this. So we've got a king stud and a jack, and I've got something jammed under this, by the way, just to make it stick way up and just to exaggerate the circumstance. Now, we can't really nail these together like this because your drywall will have a big hump in it right here. So what we need to do is pull this board up flush with the top of this board, okay? First off, I'm gonna pull the safety back on this gun. Now be careful, it will fire anytime you pull the trigger after this. I'm gonna shoot a nail into this board, but it will still be sticking up.
Totally not a good idea.
Like so. Now, you'll take your hammer, hook it under that nail head, and you will pry. Now you've got these flush on top, FOT.
FOT? Anybody else know what FOT means besides the guys on that crew? Actually, I do, but.
Flush on top, we'll pin them together. Very well, because the next thing I'm gonna do is drive that nail in. And that's faster than pulling it. So now you can see these boards are perfectly flush on top. You're gonna have a good flat wall, and that's a really good trick. And you can use that in a lot of other applications, not just this one. So that's called the Stolzfuss. That's probably my best trick. Tip number 4. Write your name on everything you own. You know, you really can't be too careful. I write my name on chisels, snacks, hot sauce, pencils, speed square. And after a while, you don't even notice that's on there.
We get in Perkins' work truck, and you know what I find? A bunch of stuff that says JMR batteries, JMR nail gun.
Tip number 5. One of the best tricks I've learned over the years to save your arm when you're using a framing nailer is to shoot the framing gun with your thumb on the trigger, like this. So when you're bent over building walls, if you're using your index finger to shoot the gun, like this, your wrist is gonna be at a really weird angle. It's gonna burn your forearm up. It's gonna hurt your wrist. Let me demonstrate a shot. So that's not very comfortable all day long. So what I like to do is flip my wrist around to where it's straight, and now I use my thumb to pull the trigger on this framing nailer, and that saves your arm so much. So I'm gonna demonstrate that. You could shoot just as fast and I think just as accurate and save your arm.
I don't let my guys shoot. They'll shoot me. Give me the gun.
Tip number 6. Keep super glue in your first aid kit.
That will save you $600 at the hospital. That's what we call liquid stitch.
And if you know that guy, you definitely do not want to be getting real stitches from him.
Tip number 7. My next tip is to use these as much as possible. 3-inch deck screws with a T25 head on them. We use them everywhere. You can pull them out easy, and they do a lot of tasks a lot easier and a lot faster than a nail.
We can't afford the T25 screws, so that's a no-go.
You'll notice that they have a long, smooth part on the shank so that they draw real nice. And by draw, I mean they will suck boards together that don't want to go together with a nail. Here's a drill that I keep hooked on my tool belt with a T25 bit in it at all times. I'll show you the hook right there.
Hey, that looks like exactly like my battery. That's my battery.
I've got a mock situation here to show you how these screws can really draw two boards flush in an extreme situation. So you can see I've got about a 1/4 inch difference between this surface and this surface. And I'm gonna use a screw at an angle like this to suck them flush. Now, if they're already tight here, that's not possible. So what I'll do is give myself a little gap, start my screw, and once it's caught into this lower board, I'll remove my spacer. Now I want you to see how this will suck this 1/4 inch gap right over flush to the next board.
Ooh, yeah.
I use that a lot to get framing perfect. You don't want stuff that's not flush in your frame. Because these screws have such a long shank, they can tend to get stuck and spin out like this. I'm trying to pull this screw out and it won't go because there's nothing for the screw to bite on this smooth shank. So what I'm gonna do is put the screw back in. Okay, now I'm gonna put another screw in next to it.
That's what we call the extractor screw.
I'm not gonna set the head of this screw past flush so it comes out easy. Now, I can pull my first screw because my second screw is holding the board in place. Boom, that came out. And now I'll pull my second screw. Woohoo! Which is not set very deep. So now I got my screw out without having to cut it with a Sawzall. Tip number 8. My next tip, get really good at math. 3.141592768. 5 pi. There's no such thing as a left triangle. Tip number 9. Next tip is to put your metal tools in the shade when you're working on a hot day. I'm not even gonna try and grab this, guys. Let's get this over here. Let it cool off for a while right there before I grab it. Tip number 10. I like to draw things full scale. It's a lot less confusing that way.
I'm pretty sure that's the right mark right there. And if you made it through those 10, you are a bona fide rookie.